Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! Well, it is over. The Detroit Lions season has come to an end. After a 14-6 season, a season that saw the Detroit Lions win the NFC North for the first time in 30 years, a season that saw the Detroit Lions win a playoff game for the first time in 32 years, and a season that saw the Detroit Lions go to the NFC Championship game. The Detroit Lions fall 3 points and really one half short of a Super Bowl trip. The Detroit Lions gave the 49ers everything they had. It took an immense comeback and an immense effort from the San Francisco 49ers to make it to the Super Bowl this year and get past the Detroit Lions. And although it sucks, and although there is a lot of negativity, and although there is a lot of different opinions and different thoughts out there, I wanted to share mine about this game, about the season, and about the future of this team, because it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all bleak. And I think that there's a lot of things to be positive about, and there's a lot of things to truly be excited about for the future. So with all that being said, let's get into this game. The Detroit Lions came out swinging. The San Francisco 49ers got the ball first, and they decided to defer to the Detroit Lions. It took the Lions 4 plays to drive 75 yards and score the opening touchdown on the game with a massive 50-yard rush by Jameson Williams for a touchdown. San Francisco would drive down 12 plays, 45 yards, and miss a field goal, and the Lions would go on an 11-play, 62-yard drive to make it a 14-0 game early in the first quarter. San Francisco would respond, making it 14-7, and after a punt from Detroit, Malcolm Rodriguez came with a massive interception after 5 plays, intercepting Brock Purdy and taking it back for the Detroit Lions to set them up for a 5-play, 46-yard drive to go up 21-7. The Lions then forced a 3-and-out on the ensuing drive and went 17 plays and 68 yards to make a field goal to end the half at a 24-7 lead. The Lions had a 17-point lead going into halftime of the NFC Championship game versus the #1 seed and probably the best team in the NFL. They came out, San Francisco had a field goal, and then things really started to turn around for the San Francisco 49ers. That field goal was not bad. The Lions were able to hold them out. It was a 10-24 game, right? The Lions are still up by 14 points. Their offense drives down 8 plays, 47 yards. They have a choice to whether either go for a field goal or try to go for a big play on 4th down. The 4th down call was really good. They got the ball out to a good player, a guy with reliable hands for the most part throughout the season, and a player that's had a big role in the Detroit Lions' success this postseason. Josh Reynolds had 100 yards in the wild card game and a crucial touchdown in the divisional. You go to that guy on 4th down. He's been so big for you every single step of the way, really, since the first year of this rebuild. And unfortunately, he drops it. And that's kind of started the beginning of the end for the Detroit Lions, right? It took San Francisco 5 plays and 72 yards, including a deep shot that bounced off the face of cornerback Kendall Vilder that was bobbled and caught down at the 5 by Brandon Ayuk to put the San Francisco 49ers down by 7. And then the next play, the Detroit Lions fumbled. Jahmyr Gibbs never really got good control of the ball. The 49ers were able to punch it out, and 4 plays later, they were able to punch it in to tie the game up. The Lions would punt. San Francisco would score a field goal. The Lions would then again go 6 plays with a 4th down failed conversion, giving the 49ers the ball back, 7 plays, 70 yards, 34 points on the board for San Francisco. The Lions would go back down 11 plays, 75-yard, make it a 3-point game, go for the onside kick. And unfortunately, the 49ers would go backwards 4 yards, take off that final 56 seconds, and they would walk away as the NFC North or NFC Conference champion. The Lions were that close. The Lions were a half away. The Lions were realistically, I think, 3 plays away from the Super Bowl. That 4th down drop by Josh Reynolds, the ball off the face mask of Kendall Vilder that was a 50-yard gain, and the fumble by Jahmyr Gibbs. Other than that, the offense rolled pretty much the whole time. Other than that, the defense I thought was not great, but okay, was, sufficient, if nothing else. And at the end of the day, it was those 3 to 4 plays. I think you could say that JMO flea flicker was another one that was just inches away from JMO's fingertips. It's really, really unfortunate, but the San Francisco 49ers played a great second half. The Lions did not execute well in the second half at all, and I'm not going to put it on coaching. I don't think Dan Campbell cost the Lions this game. I don't think Ben Johnson cost the Lions this game, despite giving up 34 points. I do not think Aaron Glenn cost the Detroit Lions this game. I think it was depth issues. I think it was a talent issue, and I think it was an execution issue. The pass rush did not get a single sack until the second to last drive by the San Francisco 49ers. And they ended the game, I believe, with 3, but they didn't get one until the very end, until it was nearly over, and they really didn't have a whole lot to play for. Now, taking a look at the box scores of this game, because I think there's a lot of positives to go along with this game. I'll take a look at the box score first, going over the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff was 25 of 41, 273 yards and a touchdown with 0 interceptions. You have the rushing attack. David Montgomery went 15 for 93, 6.2 yards a carry. Jahmyr Gibbs went 12 for 45, 3.8 and a touchdown. Jameson Williams went 1 for 42 with a touchdown, obviously 42 yards per carry. The Lions as a team averaged 6.3 yards a carry and 3 rushing touchdowns. Sam Laporta had 9 for 97. Amon-Ra had 7 for 86. JMO had 2 for 25 with another touchdown through the air. Reynolds had a big play for 25 yards. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Anthony Frisker got us down to the 2. The receiving game wasn't bad, right? The defense overall. Alex Anzalone led the team in tackles. Malcolm Rodriguez had a tackle for loss, a pass defended, and an interception. The Lions as a team had 6 quarterback hits and 2 sacks, half by Tyson Alualua, half by Ifeatu Melifonwu, and I believe 1 sack by Aleem McNeil by himself. They had 5 tackles for loss. They had 5 passes defended. They had 6 quarterback hits. They were really, really good. Even going down to I can't find him on the stat sheet, so he must not have had an official tackle. But I thought James Houston got some good pressure. I thought Aiden Hutchinson had a couple good pressures. He had 2 passes defended all by himself and a couple really nice pressures. Malcolm Rodriguez with the interception. There wasn't a whole lot to go with the punt and return game, but Michael Badgley was 4 for 4 on extra points and 1 field goal to help the Detroit Lions get back in the game. The Lions didn't play a bad game overall. Like, you'd look at these stats and you'd say, that's not a bad group. That's not a bad game from any individual player, but it seemed like from the start of the third quarter to about midway through the fourth, everything was on the 49ers side. And I think the best play to sum that up was obviously the Brandon Ayuk 50-yard catch, but then also the ensuing drive for the Detroit Lions on defense. The very next drive after that, Aaron Glenn calls a fantastic blitz package. Ifeatu Melifonwu comes unblocked through the middle, and a play that he's made 4 or 5 times this year, and he just whiffs on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy escapes, and it turns into an 11-yard gain to Kyle Juszczyk on the sideline. Like, Brock Purdy, I didn't think was spectacular. He was 20 for 31, 267, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks on the day. McCaffrey didn't go for 100, but did get 2 touchdowns, and that was the problem, right? The Lions did what they do, right? They didn't let the quarterback beat them, but unfortunately, unlike all the other playoff games, unlike all the playoff games that they've played and all the games they've played over the last 6 to 7 weeks, the rushing attack hurt them in the red zone. They allowed 3 rushing touchdowns, which is why they lost the game. If you put your hat on the fact that your defense is going to be an elite rushing unit, you can't give up 155 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on the day. That's how you're going to lose the game. Honestly, I didn't think the secondary played all that bad. There was that, obviously, again, 1 big play to Brandon Ayuk, and there was a couple to Cam Sutton's way, but other than that, they really weren't that poor of a secondary. The rushing defense just kind of got worn out at the end. They were actually quite good. I mean, 4.7 yards per carry isn't awful, but it's not as elite as they have been over the last couple of weeks. Christian McCaffrey had arguably his worst day, probably one of his worst rushing days in a while. Didn't get to 100 yards, 20 attempts, less than 100 yards. That's pretty good against Christian McCaffrey, but the 3 touchdowns really killed us. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk's big catch really hurt us. Deebo Samuel hurt us over and over and over again and broke a ton of tackles. The 2 sacks, I think both by Nick Bosa, were just really important to the game. And at the end of the day, the 49ers just played better. The 49ers just simply outplayed the Detroit Lions down the stretch. And the Lions had a chance to win this game. The Lions had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, they just were unable to do it. So what does that mean for the Detroit Lions' future? There's a lot of people saying that that's over. There's a lot of people saying that that was the Lions' best chance to get to the Super Bowl, and they wasted it. And personally, I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't necessarily believe that that was the Lions' best chance to get to a Super Bowl. And I don't think it's going to be the only time we're going to see them in the NFC Championship game over the next couple of years. They are a super young team. Their average age is under the age of 26. They have a lot of guys still on their rookie contract. They have quite a few picks in this NFL draft. One, if not both of their coordinators are returning to put back together one of the better teams in the NFL. And there's people saying, well, yeah, but now their schedule is going to be tougher. And yeah, but now, there's another year of film on them. And yeah, but now they've been exposed. And I say, okay, they just went 12-5 with the second place schedule. They played, I think, 7 or 8 teams with winning records this year, including 3 teams to go to the playoffs, including, and after that in the postseason, obviously beating 2 playoff teams to get to the NFC Championship game. This is not a lucky team. This is not a team that just absolutely got lucky every single time they touched the football. This was not a team that didn't earn their 12-5 start. This is not a team that got lucky with an easy schedule. Their schedule was relatively tough this year, and I think it might be tougher next year, but they're also potentially going to get better. They can go into free agency and find a true cornerback one, potentially find that second edge rusher to Aiden Hutchinson, potentially find another defensive tackle to put alongside Aleem McNeil, potentially find, a guard that can stay healthy so you don't have a truly just rotating door at offensive line. Jameson Williams looked good. David Montgomery looked good. Jahmyr Gibbs looked phenomenal. Sam Laporta looked phenomenal. Amon St. Brown was really good. There are so many positives to take away from this game, and I understand that it stings. I understand that it sucks. I understand that the Lions are no longer playing football, and they were 1/2 away from the Super Bowl, but I think there's a lot more to be excited about than there is to be sad about. Over the last month, the Detroit Lions lost to San Francisco in San Francisco by 3 in the NFC Championship game. They won the divisional round. They won in the wild card. They won the division, and they went to Dallas, and they lost by 1 point to what would be the 2 seed. Over the last month of football, or I guess the last 5 weeks of football, the Lions have played the number 1 and the number 2 seed in the NFL, and they lost by a combined 4 points, both of which were controversial, and both of which the Detroit Lions were able to win it down to the very last drive and very last moments of the football game. The Lions are not a bad football team. The Lions, I think, are easily a top 3, if not a top 2 team in the NFC right now. And they're only going to get better. They're only going to improve with their youth, and they're only going to add more talent through free agency, through the draft. They have $50-60 million in cap space. They have a bunch of picks, including 5 picks, I believe, inside the top 100 with their extra 3rd-round pick for Minnesota. So there's a ton to be excited about. There's a ton to get ready for this offseason. And I personally, although I am really, upset, obviously, and it sucks that the season's over, I'm excited to talk about the college football. I'm excited to talk about prospects. I'm excited for new players to come in. I'm excited to see how much better this team can get next season. And I'm excited to see where this team goes for the future. So with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Let me know your major takeaways down in the comments below. I'll be very curious what you guys have to say. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.